Shadows twist where whispers grow. The edge of light begins to flow. A world unseen through fractured glass, where futures meet the echoes past. Step closer now, the veil is thin. A riddle starts where dreams begin. The experimental medium calls your name. Nothing here will be the same.
We got some truly mind-bending stuff in this week.
Correct.
A listener sent us tumbling into a period where, well, even science threw up its hands a bit.
Yeah.
We're talking mid-19th century, and suddenly everyone's talking about spirits. It's just a wild ride.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating is the level of scrutiny this actually received. I mean, our listener pointed us to this book from 1869, Planchette, or The Despair of Science.
Right.
And it's not some flimsy pamphlet, you know? It's a serious attempt to document and, well, try to understand these strange happenings. It draws on firsthand accounts, even observations from scientists.
Okay, so picture this.
Yeah.
For you listening, this isn't going to be some dry history lesson.
Yeah.
Not at all.
No.
Think of it as us digging through this incredible time capsule. Yeah. To bring you the really juicy bits. We're talking objects moving on their own, messages appearing out of thin air, things that made some of the smartest people back then just scratch their heads.
Yeah.
Look at how they reacted, the theories they cooked up, and why this whole episode still raises some, well, pretty intriguing questions today.
Our goal here is really to get to the heart of this historical puzzle. What exactly were people claiming to experience?
Yeah.
How did the established scientific community, you know, with its focus on the observable, the measurable, how did they try to grapple with these claims?
And what does it all mean?
And ultimately, what does this tell us about the boundaries of what we know?
Yeah.
And maybe the human desire to understand the unknown?
Exactly. And this book, Planchette, it's our window into that world. It
Yeah.
really captures the sheer bewilderment, the fascination of the time.
It really does.
So let's jump right in. What were these bizarre events that had science so utterly perplexed?
Well, the book starts by focusing on Planchette itself. Think of it as a little wooden pointer on wheels with a pencil attached. You'd place your fingers on it on a table, and supposedly spirits would guide it to write out messages.
Oh.
And this was often linked to table tipping, where entire tables would rock, move, even lift off the ground seemingly by themselves.
Like a Ouija board's quirky ancestor, maybe.
Sort of, yeah, but it wasn't just furniture acting up, was it? The book lays out a whole catalog of strange occurrences.
Right.
Indeed. The sheer variety of reported phenomena is, well, it's quite remarkable. We're talking unexplained noises, rappings, like those famously associated with the Fox sisters in Hydesville.
The famous Hydesville rappings, yeah.
Then you have the table movements, which could become pretty dramatic. The medium Mr. Home, for instance, reportedly could levitate them entirely.
Lift a whole table.
Apparently. Spirit writing was another key element, with messages appearing on paper, seemingly with no obvious human intervention. The book even includes reproductions from the London Spiritual magazine, showing examples attributed to spirits like Estelle and even, incredibly, Benjamin Franklin.
Wait, Benjamin Franklin? Communicating from beyond the grave. That's quite a claim.
It is, and the accounts go further. People claim to see apparitions, Estelle is mentioned again, and there's this figure of a large, heavy man believed to be Dr. Franklin,
Okay.
often accompanied by the scent of violets.
Violets.
Huh. Yeah, spirit lights would appear and move around, and there were even instances of musical instruments playing without anyone touching them. A bass viol playing Coronation is one memorable example.
A phantom orchestra playing a royal tune. You can absolutely see why this would capture the public imagination.
And it gets even more personal. The book recounts episodes of spirit hands, you know, the sensation of being touched, hair pulled, or even a glass of water being offered by an unseen presence.
Whoa.
Objects would be moved, a coat found on the floor, a stool placed on someone's arm, ropes untying themselves in impossible ways. Well, maybe less common early on, there were also reports of disembodied voices.
It's like a real-life supernatural circus. And you mentioned that even though scientists were skeptical, these things just kept happening.
It's a critical point. Despite increasing scientific scrutiny, outright disbelief, These phenomena persisted. The book really emphasizes this resilience, stating that criticism has done its worst and they are still irrepressible. This very persistence, in the face of attempts to debunk them, is what truly stumped many people, even those initially inclined to just dismiss the whole thing.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about the power of belief, or perhaps something else entirely going on.
Exactly.
So how did the scientific community of the time react to all this? I mean, I can't imagine they all just shrugged and said, oh, well, ghosts.
Not at all. Not initially, anyway. The first reaction was largely one of dismissal, even ridicule. The spiritual hypothesis was met with, well, widespread skepticism.
Understandable.
But as the reports continued, and often from seemingly reliable sources, a shift began to occur for some. The question went from this is nonsense to, okay, what is actually going on here?
Right. Who were some of the big names in science who got involved, and what were their takes on it all?
We see a real spectrum of responses. You had someone like Herbert Spencer, a prominent philosopher, biologist. He apparently refused to even investigate.
Brilliant. Just dismissed it.
Dismissed it on a priori grounds, basically saying it couldn't be true because it didn't fit his existing understanding of the world. So why bother looking?
Huh.
On the other hand, Michael Faraday, a giant in physics, he actually tried to find a scientific explanation, at least for the table movements.
What did he come up with?
He proposed the idea of unconscious muscular energy. The idea that participants were unknowingly causing the movement themselves.
Like when you think you're not influencing a Ouija board, but your hand is actually pushing it slightly?
Exactly, that kind of idea. However, the book points out some limitations. There were instances where tables reportedly moved without anyone touching them, or the movements just seemed too deliberate, too intelligent to be random twitches. Figures like Tyndall and Sir David Brewster also engaged with it. Brewster initially claimed he'd seen table movements, which caused a huge stir.
I bet.
But later, he seemed to backtrack, much to the disappointment of those who had witnessed his initial sort of amazement. It highlights the pressure these scientists were under.
Yeah, it sounds like there was a real tension. Wanting to be scientifically rigorous, but then faced with these experiences people were swearing were real.
Precisely. Professor Hare and Dr. Elliotson, who had previously studied mesmerism, they were among those who took the phenomena more seriously and conducted their own investigations. Professor De Morgan is also mentioned.
Okay.
And even the testimonies of electricians are included. It suggests experts in physical phenomena were really trying to make sense of it all.
Trying to apply the known laws.
Right. It really shows the struggle to apply the scientific method to something that just seemed to defy it.
The book even touches on the different approaches within the scientific community, doesn't it? The outright dismissers versus those willing to at least look closer.
Yes, absolutely. The author contrasts the supercilious philosopher, the one who rejects anything that doesn't fit their existing beliefs,
Right.
with the humility of true science, which should ideally be open to investigating even the most unusual claims.
That's a good point.
It's a reminder that scientific progress often involves challenging established ideas. Initial resistance to new concepts isn't uncommon at all. Think of Galileo.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs face the most pushback initially.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have these strange events and the scientific community trying to wrap their heads around it. Now let's talk about some of the people right at the center of it all, the mediums. Who were some of the key figures highlighted in the book, and what kinds of phenomena were associated with them?
Well, the book frequently refers back to the Fox family and the rappings in Hydesville in 1847.
The starting point, kind of?
Which many see as the birth of modern spiritualism, but it also detests experiences surrounding other prominent mediums. There's significant focus on these remarkable accounts involving a Mr. Livermore, as documented by Dr. Gray.
Okay, Livermore, what was his deal?
He was presented as a highly credible witness, someone not given to fantasy or trances, apparently, and he even possessed this unusual physical characteristic, the ability to light gas with his finger.
Whoa, really? Lighting gas with his finger. That definitely adds to the intrigue.
It does. The idea was maybe he had some heightened electrical sensitivity. Anyway, Livermore reported witnessing spirit writings, supposedly from his deceased wife Estelle, and even from a spirit claiming to be Benjamin Franklin. The book actually includes facsimiles, copies, of these writings.
Wow.
He also described seeing apparitions, including that heavy man in black, believed to be Franklin, and experiencing physical sensations like taps, the smell of violets attributed to his wife.
Right, the violence again.
He even recounted seeing spirit lights and feeling the touch of spirit hands. The emphasis on Livermore's reliability as a witness is clearly meant to lend weight to these, well, extraordinary claims.
It's interesting how much emphasis they put on the credibility of the observer. It's like they knew they'd face accusations of trickery or just hallucination.
Exactly. They anticipated the skepticism. The book also dedicates a good portion to the manifestations associated with Mr. Home, D.D. Home.
Ah, yes. Heard of him.
The account of Robert Bell, published in the Cornhill magazine, which was edited by William Makepeace Thackeray, the novelist.
Thackeray? What?
Yes, that's given prominence. Thackeray himself, a respected literary figure, vouched for Bell's integrity. He even shared his own experience with a levitating table in New York,
No way.
expressing his belief in the supernatural nature of these events, despite all the scientific skepticism. It's fascinating to see someone of Thackeray's stature willing to go against the grain like that.
Thackeray, the literary giant, convinced by a levitating table?
Yeah.
That's almost a headline in itself.
It really is. And Bell's description of a seance with Mr. Home is particularly vivid. He recounts being in a darkened room, the tassel of a window blind moving inexplicably.
Creepy.
The feeling of being touched by unseen hands, first a small boy's hand, then a larger one that seemed to just dissolve into thin air.
Yeah, that's unnerving.
He also describes an accordion moving and playing on the floor without anyone near it, flowers being distributed by unseen means, and even geranium blossoms being snapped off in another room and thrown into the seance room.
Just appearing out of nowhere.
Thrown into the room, yeah. The level of sensory detail in these accounts is really striking.
It paints such a vivid picture. I mean, even if you're skeptical, it's hard to dismiss the sheer number and detail of these reports.
And the book highlights others too, like the mediumship of Mr. C.H. Foster. There are accounts of pellet reading, where Foster could seemingly identify information written on tightly folded pieces of paper without seeing them.
How would that even work?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Witnesses reported loud, unexplained noises, furniture moving, even letters appearing on Foster's skin.
On his skin.
Yeah. The Honorable Mrs. W.C. shared her experiences, finding her boots placed above her head, busts moving on their own, a table levitating upside down,
It's upside down.
and her lost handkerchief reappearing in a locked conservatory.
Okay, that's specific.
One particularly dramatic account describes a heavy Broadwood pianoforte levitating while Foster sang.
A whole piano levitating.
While he sang. And Dr. Ashburner, a physician, also corroborated Foster's abilities in that pellet reading thing. It's just a relentless barrage of the bizarre.
It really sounds like these mediums were just magnets for the inexplicable. The sheer range of phenomena associated with each of them is quite staggering.
Indeed. And the book mentions others as well, each with their own reported specializations. Miss Lord was said to have been lifted in her chair onto a table,
Oh.
while a bass viol played mysteriously in the same house, even with her hands held. Miss Ellis reportedly manifested a tangible spirit hand you could feel,
A physical hand.
apparently, and a Mr. Reed demonstrated remarkable escapes from tightly tied ropes under seemingly impossible conditions. It's a testament to how widespread these claims were at the time.
So with all these strange things happening and the scientific community struggling, often failing to find answers, there must have been other explanations floating around. It couldn't have been universally accepted as spirits right away, surely.
Oh, not at all. While the spiritual hypothesis, the idea that these events were caused by spirits of the deceased, definitely gained considerable traction.
Yeah.
There were various alternative theories proposed. Some early ideas are mentioned in the book, acknowledging that the spiritual hypothesis was just one attempt to explain it all.
Like what else?
Well, the possibility of collective hallucination or mass suggestion was definitely considered. Could people just be thinking they saw these
A
things?
sort of shared delusion gripping large numbers of people. Makes sense as a theory.
Precisely. Another really interesting theory discussed is the Mary Jane theory, proposed by Mr. Guppy.
Mary Jane.
Yeah. It suggested the existence of an odic vapor, some kind of invisible force emanating from certain individuals, maybe those with a surplus of phosphorus,
Odic vapor.
which could potentially form a conscious entity capable of moving objects and communicating. It was an attempt to find a physical or semi-physical explanation.
An invisible thinking vapor responsible for ghostly happenings. That sounds pretty far-fetched itself. What were the problems with that idea?
Well, the book points out a key flaw. The knowledge of this odic being, this Mary Jane, seemed limited to what the medium and the sitters already knew,
Uh-oh.
which contradicted instances like Livermore's experiences or the pellet reading, where information unknown to the participants was seemingly revealed.
Right. How could it know something nobody in the room knew?
Exactly. If it was simply an emanation of their own thoughts or energy, how could it provide genuinely new information? It highlighted the limitations of those kinds of purely physical explanations.
Yeah, that's a pretty significant hole in the theory. What about some of the more common criticisms leveled against spiritualism at the time? I'm sure there were plenty of naysayers just poking holes in it.
Oh, absolutely. Several common objections are addressed in the book. One big one was the argument that the phenomena were just trivial, lacked any real significance.
Like, so what if a chair moves? Big deal.
Pretty much. The idea that moving furniture was hardly a profound event, certainly less useful than what a laborer could do. Another frequent criticism was the supposed inability of spirits to impart any truly novel information, anything the living didn't already know.
Which you said the book tried to counter.
Right, by citing specific examples like Livermore's experiences or the pellet readings, where new information did seem to emerge.
And I remember reading something about contradictory messages supposedly coming from the spirits. That must have raised some eyebrows, too.
Yes, that was a huge point of contention. The inconsistent and sometimes contradictory nature of spirit communications. Why would one spirit say one thing and another say the opposite?
Yeah, doesn't sound very organized over there.
The book offers an interesting, if somewhat unexpected, explanation for this. It suggests that spirits basically retain their earthly personalities and limitations.
So they don't instantly become wise and all-knowing.
Apparently not, according to this view. A foolish person in life might just be a foolish spirit, and their communications would reflect that. The book even quotes a supposed spirit named Honestus, acknowledging the fallibility of spirits, and references Swedenborg's ideas about the limitations of spirit memory after death. It's a very humanizing view of the afterlife in a strange way.
So it's almost like the spirit world is just us, but without bodies.
Yeah.
Still kind of bumbling along with our flaws and foibles.
That's the implication presented in the book, yeah. It's a perspective that tries to account for the messy, inconsistent nature of the reported messages. Makes them seem less like divine pronouncements and more like, well, talk.
Okay. So looking at the bigger picture then, what were the lasting implications of all this? What questions did this whole spiritualist movement raise that maybe still resonate today?
Well, the author of Planchette clearly believed these phenomena held profound significance. They saw them as potentially offering a key to much that is obscure in the duplex nature of man.
The dual nature, body and spirit.
Exactly. And even providing evidence for the possibility of immortality. The very fact that seemingly inexplicable events were occurring challenged the prevailing scientific understanding of the universe and our place in it. It forced people to reconsider the boundaries of the purely physical world.
And it wasn't just the general public getting caught up in this, right?
Yeah.
Even established religious institutions had their say.
Indeed. The book mentions the Catholic Church's acknowledgement of the phenomena, citing a Father Hecker. He apparently believed the events were genuine,
Okay.
but attributed them to demoniacal agency rather than benevolent spirits of the dead.
Ah, demons instead of dearly departed relatives. That's a very different interpretation.
It really underscores the uncertainty and the lack of any universally accepted explanation. These phenomena also intersected with deeper philosophical and theological debates about the nature of good and evil, the possibility of pre-existence.
Pre-existed.
Yeah. Figures like Dr. Edward Beecher and Origen are mentioned in this context. There was this clear tension with the increasingly popular materialistic view, the idea that consciousness was solely a product of the brain.
Right. Thought is just brain chemistry.
Proponents of spiritualism argued that these phenomena suggested a reality beyond mere physical processes, as noted by someone called Cesare in the book. It really shook the foundations of how people thought about the mind, consciousness, the whole package.
It really sounds like the rise of spiritualism just threw a major curveball into a lot of established ideas about science, religion, and the very nature of reality itself.
Absolutely. And the book even briefly touches on the idea of psychometry, the supposed ability to gain information about an object just by touching it.
Like sensing its history.
Something like that. With examples from figures like Sishoc and Émile Duchamp, this further expanded the exploration of seemingly latent human capacities that defied easy scientific explanation. It suggests a broader fascination at the time with the hidden potential of the human mind and its connection to the world around it.
So we've taken this deep dive into Planchette, and this fascinating, really weird period when the line between the known and the unknown seemed particularly blurry. What's the main thing you hope our listener takes away from this exploration?
I think the key takeaway is that this historical period, as illuminated by this 1869 book, it really represents a time when extraordinary claims seriously challenged the very foundations of scientific understanding.
Yeah.
It compelled a reevaluation of what was considered possible, and it highlighted the limitations of the knowledge of that time, even though definitive scientific answers for many of these phenomena remained elusive.
And maybe still are.
Maybe still are.
Yeah.
The questions they raised about the nature of consciousness, the potential for a spiritual realm, the boundaries of human understanding those questions continue to be thought-provoking even today.
That's a powerful reminder, isn't it? That what we consider settled science today might just be the edge of our current understanding. And it really makes you wonder, in our own time, with all our rapid technological and scientific advancements, what seemingly strange or inexplicable events might be happening around us right now. Things that future generations will look back on and understand in a completely different light.
It's a classic question.
It really encourages you, maybe, to keep an open mind about the mysteries that could still lie beyond our current comprehension.
Whispers creeping through the haze, shadows dance in twisted ways, echoes hum from worlds unseen. This is where the strange convene. Step into the unknown mind, secrets hidden, twist and bind, truths that linger in between. Welcome to the spectral stream. A voice that stirs the silent night, guides you through the fading light. Journeys deep beyond the real, where unseen forces are revealed. Step into the unknown mind, secrets hidden, twist and bind, truths that linger in between. Welcome to the spectral stream. Electric sparks and haunted tones, reality's edge becomes your home. Questions rise like fragile smoke, the uncharted realms silently spoke. Step into the unknown mind, secrets hidden, twist and bind, truths that linger in between. Welcome to the spectral stream. Electric sparks and haunted tones, reality's edge becomes your home. Questions rise like fragile smoke, the uncharted